Okay, what I'm going to try and attempt to fix today is this noisy power seat on my wife's 2016 Mazda CX-5. This happens to be the driver's side of the vehicle. And the problem is limited to this forward and back slide movement seen here. Yeah, both the tilt and the lumbar support, those are just fine. You don't hear any noise from those at all. I decided to make this video after being able to locate one for this specific issue and finding others that were more about general malfunctions, like items being jammed into the seat tracks. And those don't apply to the noise that we're hearing here. My wife had taken the car to the dealership about a year ago, but they said that it would require replacing the whole seat base at a cost of about $800, as you can see here, which that was for parts and labor. I felt like that was a bit much, and if you decide to go that route, though, you can find the seat base online for about half of that price if you want to change it out yourself. But I think there's a lot more economical solution. So my little unscientific but simple diagnosis consists of feeling the underside of each of the rails as you operate. Try and see if I can get the camera where you can see this. So just kind of as you operate the seat, feel underneath this rail on the left. I'm keeping my hands out of the screw, and same thing. This is on the door side, driver's door side, and then over here on the console side. Also, just kind of feeling the drive motor here that drives that particular screw drive. Not sure how well you can see that in this light. And then finally the drive shaft that runs from the motor over here to the console side slide. And when feeling those four locations, I note that there's minimal vibration on the driver's side rail, that there's more pronounced vibration on the console side rail, and then there's unnoticeable vibration coming from the motor, but there's very significant vibration coming from that drive shaft, which is what I plan to replace in an attempt to fix the problem. Now, I've also done some research on this, and I believe this exact same seat is also used on some 2013 through 2016 Mazda CX-5s. This happens to be a 2016 Mazda CX-5. They're also used on some 2014 to 2018 Mazda 3s, some 2016 Mazda CX-9s, and 2014 to 2017 Mazda 6s. In order to do this particular repair, the only special tool that I had to purchase was a 12 millimeter E-Torx in order to be able to remove the seat, and that's because my particular model has a E-Torx head bolt holding the seat in place. You want to check before you go and buy the E-Torx 12 millimeter socket. You may have regular hex head bolts. So with that, I'll go grab my tools, and we'll get started on this. Okay, there's 4 bolts that need to be removed. I'm not going to make you watch me remove all 4 bolts. You will need a pretty good sized bar to break these. They're in there pretty tight. I've gotten my torque wrench and gotten them loosened up. The only thing I wanted to mention here is that I'm taking out the back ones first, and there's a reason for that. because there's two places that you could really, two things that you could really mess up on doing this, and that is we need to I need to move the seat all the way to the back in order to give myself room to work on it. So I'm taking the ones out of the back first. The other thing is that you need to make sure that the battery is disconnected, so you don't deploy the side airbag. So you need to, and then the other point is that you could easily get, well, I don't know about easily, but you might run into a situation where you get the left side out of sync with the right side screw. So I want to have it all the way back as a reference position to avoid the situation where I might have the left side or the right side further advanced and have it running skewed one side to the other, which that would be a bigger problem for you as well. So I'm going to get these bolts out. After I get the ones in the back out, I'll move the seat all the way to the very back, as far back as it'll go. I'll take the front ones out, and then we'll be back to disconnect the seat. Okay, I've got my back bolts out, and I've got the seat in the full back position. Now at this point, what I'm going to do next, even before I take these front seat bolts out, is I'm going to go and disconnect the battery. And the reason for disconnecting the battery is because I'm going to have to disconnect this connector down here. I'm going to have to disconnect this connector in order to work on this. And what I don't want to do is deploy the side airbag. So by disconnecting the negative battery terminal, I can avoid that possible issue. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove the negative battery terminal. This is a 10 millimeter socket. And again, the only reason I'm doing this, I want to be sure that I don't accidentally deploy the airbag, and also don't want to operate that seat anymore until I get the new drive cable in. Okay, I've got the bolts out and the seat tilted back, and you can see, and I don't think it's going to be necessary to disconnect this connector. After all, I'm going to try and get this done without doing that. This is the, you can see a little better the cable that we're going to be removing, the drive shaft that runs from the motor side over here over to the left side gearbox. And it's held in by 3 clips. There's one kind of offset to the console side slightly, and there's one at the far console side end, and then there's one at the motor end. We basically just lift this drive cable out of those, take the center one out first, and then the 2 ends. It is really important that when we're actually removing the cable, that we take it away from the motor side first, and then the gearbox side second. And the reason for that is because we're doing everything possible to avoid moving at all the seat in on these slide rails, because if we get them canted, then obviously it doesn't work well. They've got to be at the same position in those slide rails. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. I'm going to use this little offset screwdriver. I tried a few tools off camera. It seems like this is the easiest one for me to use to get underneath that and lift the cable up out of those clips. So I can't hold the camera and do it, so I'm going to turn off the camera and get it out of here, but I'll be doing just as I described. Okay, there we do. We have it out. You can see that the end of it is just a square drive. Runs inside there's a little cloth piece that runs inside the housing here. And this is the hard rubber outside. And so I've got a replacement part for that. I'll show you the part number, the bag that it came in, and that's what we'll put back in. Again, I took the side out of the motor side first, and out of the gearbox side second to do that. Okay, here's the replacement part that you need. TK81-88-0D1. I actually bought this online from realmazdaparts.com. I picked it up for $14, and I paid about $8 to have it shipped to me. You know, you may be able to buy it someplace else. I didn't want to go back to the same dealer that told me here locally that it was going to cost $800 to fix this thing. It's about $20 invested in the part, including shipping, and then I think I spent maybe $14 to get a set of e-torque sockets. So I'm going to unbag this thing and stick it in. Sticking it in amounts to putting it in the reverse process. I'll put it into the gearbox side and then into the motor side. Okay, so I've I've installed the cable, the new cable. I've reinstalled the bolts, seat bolts. The service manual says those should be torqued between 28 and 39, so I torqued mine to 33.5, right at the middle of that range, 33.5 foot-pounds. I've reconnected the battery, so here's how it is now. So while you can hear, you know, it kind of buzz a little bit, there's certainly not that squeal that was there before we replaced the cable. So there you go, $20, you know, for a new cable. And it solves that problem of a screeching 2016 Mazda CX-5 power seat. When you're putting this in, you know, you put it into the when you're putting this in, you put it in the motor side first, and then the other side. What I found is you kind of lift on the center of the cable when you're putting it in, so that you can try and keep the side to the gearbox in a straight position, so that it's not, you know, tilted down. It's not tilted down, but try to lift in the center of the cable. Sorry for moving the camera around here. To try and keep this end parallel to the ground, if you will, as you try to insert it on the other end. It takes a little bit of fiddling, but you know, you can get it in there. Hope that helps. $20 solution to what the dealership said would be a $800 seat base replacement. So best of luck to you.